Alright guys, and welcome back to another episode of Casting Conflicts here, of course, bringing you the pre-match recap from last match. Of course, we saw, what was it? I believe Triple J taking on Vaseven walking away with a set, bringing his record up to 1-1. Jay, unfortunately, falling 0-2, joining the lower ends of the pack. But today, quite the interesting matchup we have, and one that I didn't think was going to happen. There's certainly, of course, it's Dolphin taking on oooje. Slash, how do you feel about this matchup?
Honestly, I'm gonna have to favor oooje here. Both of them are undefeated. Oooje said he's looking to go undefeated throughout this entire tournament, and I think the big key cards we're gonna have to be looking here are Luminaris, Freezing Pillar, and Centaur, where we see that oooje is running some form of Windy Hooks deck, which can really mess with range, but I don't think that's going to really come into the equation here against Knights, which are just those big bodies which can be played aggressively by Dolphin. And I think the key word here is going to be whether or not that Freezing Pillar comes at a correct time and can really switch the course of a match, as those Knights really don't have an answer without unless you play a Centaur or that Luminaris. And I think that whichever player is able to get up and get their buffs up and running and start getting some kind of advantage early game is really going to be the one to take this away.
Yeah, absolutely crucial are the global buffs in this matchup. We saw both of these decks and how dominant they can be in their respective matchups last time, but really curious to see which one kind of stands out over the other. Will it be the classic sort of green-blue meta-ish that we've kind of seen in recent weeks, or will it be the yellow-white, one that I think personally the color combination a bit overlooked by most people, but one that has a lot of power with it, and one that can rival some of the current ladder that we see exists today. But really interested to get forward into this matchup here, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into match number 1. Alright folks, and of course welcome back to the battlefield. Game number 1 underway here. Good mulligans from Dolphin looks like early on here. Grabs a reinforced here. How you feeling this opening, Slash? I think it's going to go well for Dolphin, but I mean, if oooje has got his global buffs, I think, just like we said in the pre-match, this might be a matter of time.
Yeah, simply put, I think that it's going to really depend on what he pulls out of these Inspires. I don't think that's what he's going to be looking for there. I personally would have preferred like a Master at Arms to give some of my units some big damage buffs, but that being said, we are seeing a lot of small units come out which could have reanimate potential, and I think that Dolphin's seeing that as he's playing the Shield Runner now, which is simply allowing him to not make those crucial trades that oooje might be looking for to play that early reanimate to close out a game.
Right. Great pull by the Shield Runner. Whether or not Dolphin realizes it or not allows the Sun City Guards to stay alive after interacting with the Runner and not really having them die off for that big reanimate here. oooje looks like he's going to set up a hovel in the back, seeing his reanimate potential gone at the moment here. So, I mean, hovel's not a bad setup either. Curious if we get the Blacksmith down now, seeing pacifism in the hand. That could be funny, but not really a worthwhile turn here. Looks like we're going to set up questing. Like, going to go after the hovel. Going to start targeting that a bit here. We'll see if oooje gets defensive and places that rat to block for these incoming units here. We'll see what this approach he decides to take. Lightning Blade, the card that comes out, going to remove the Shield Runner. I
really dislike that.
I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, because I mean it's really a 2 for 2 when you think about it.
Dolphin's already up on the cards. There's no buffs out. There's no offensive power. And playing a Lightning Blade almost signals that you're willing to take this board control. And I think it's one of those where it's not the greatest board control to be taking. There's already every single unit that Dolphins played has been come off of a single card. Whereas oooje, he's already played something around the order of 4 cards now. I mean, one of them simply traded just poorly compared to its counterparts of the Shield Runner and the Knight, where it's just simply a better trade, that single Inspire coming out.
Right. I totally agree with you there. It doesn't really feel like oooje has a lot going, maybe in his hand, to warrant that. Temple of the Five Gods coming out now. Okay, so looking a little bit better for him, establishing board control to get these buffs out safely, which is fine. We'll see a
If a
Beastmaster
Bear
come
Hog
out,
comes
though.
out,
Yep.
no Bear Hog.
Bearhog would have been ideal to help clean up some of these smaller rats, but unfortunately not going to see that. He can't afford to take a Beastmaster hit here onto the guard without losing the Beastmaster, although something like an Onslaught could ruin his day. Curious if that
I
maybe
think
is
this is the
lurking.
position. This is the position oooje wants to be in. That being said, especially now that Rusty Hooks comes out,
Oh,
I still think though that it's just. I think it's going to come down to his card economy here at the end.
mm,
If Dolphin's able to go ahead and make good trades, which it looks like this night's about to do for him, a single Luminaris could in many ways end this game for him and could be his closing out factor. And we already see that. We could see something like a Mordok pulling a headless horseman into a Luminaris, which could be extremely scary. But honestly, I think that if oooje can maintain a good card economy and get something like an onslaught going, it's just almost a free win from him at this point. He's nearly home free.
right. But looked like the rat going into the castle here. The second rat being pulled away. Dragon Knight could probably do the cleanup for the Guardian, which is fine. He's still got 3 gold left over for a second hovel. Now here's where things are going to get really scary for Dolphin, dealing with 2 spawners, with rats dealing chain lightning. Horseman's not a bad pickup, but needs to kind of hit the right thing here. And hitting castle is not what he wanted to see, most likely. Throwing out the early respect is Dolphin here. Will he decide? I mean, I think he can save this Horseman for a Lumi. That feels like the play to do, but
I would certainly have traded that blacksmith first, simply so that's one fewer target for the horseman to hit. But I understand where he's thinking with this. I think that he's forced in many ways. I think that's the wrong trade to make.
yeah, I don't feel like that's the right idea. Now we're not having a target for Luminaris. You're basically telegraphing a Mordok turn 8 through that means here. We'll probably see Drake come
You're
in,
also
heal
losing
another
that blacksmith.
3. Oh, yeah.
I think he's going to lose that blacksmith there, and possibly both if there's any sort of lightning blade potential in oooje's hand. And as much as we dislike that initial play, I think it's actually paying off for him because it got him that breathing room early game. He has his token generators out. He has the powerhouse of a unit he's looking for between the 2 hovels. And simply, there's no big answer to this except for possibly that Luminaris, which there's no way Dolphin's going to be able to get that on the board without a knight.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you there. I mean, the one chance he had to even drop the Luminaris is gone. We could see something like an early knight that's lurking in his deck, like another questing come out, but even then, he'd have to wait another turn to really maximize the value out of it, to just, play it in one turn rather than 2. Mordok looking like they're going to be the card to play here. I don't see any other answers. We're going to trade in the blacksmith, okay. Following up the Mordok here. Okay, we're gonna get rid of one. Oh no, that's not what we
That
want to
hurts so
see.
bad.
Yeah, that's not what we want to see. Horseman, of course, dying off to the chain thanks to the priority of attack. Of course, Mordok's combo gonna activate first when Dolphin hits it. That will leave the Mordok to die thanks to a chain 2 from 2 temples now. Yeah, this is all going wrong here, and I think oooje's gonna walk away with this one unless some kind of major turnaround happens, which seems very unlikely. It's going to be oooje's game.
Yeah, with 3 damage on each unit, excuse me, 3 additional damage on each unit, those rats are extremely, extremely scary. And there's never going to be really a quick or clean answer to anything.
Lumberjack in the
I mean, here he
hand.
has to play arbiters and he has to kill blacksmith, even if he wants to just see another turn. And even then, it's almost like he's in an arbiter's loop, and oooje can just keep on playing big units on the board. There's no way that Dolphin's ever going to be able to clean this up, and it's just an extremely bad situation to be in.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We didn't see things like Centaur out of Dolphin's deck to at least help him clean up these generators, which is unfortunate. I mean, look at the buffs in his hand, too. Another Blacksmith, that's his 3rd one in the game. An Armory coming down. Like, these would have all been somewhat useful to him, if he had established them earlier on. And it kind of goes back to what we say. If whoever establishes their buffs and keeps them long enough will probably end up taking the match, and that's just a clear example of what we saw here. We saw oooje establish the buffs first, 2 temples, blacksmith on
Oh, he
top of
hits the
that.
wrong unit there.
Yep, he takes the shaman with it. Yeah, I think he just knows it's over though, no matter what he does. Okay, second blacksmith, third blacksmith in the hand,
I think
L
that's the game.
blade.
Yep, that's the game.
That's it. This is way too much damage, and that will be game 1 for oooje. Very nicely done from him. We kind of were a little confused on his earlier plays here with that early lightning blade, but he seems to kind of, well, he actually seemed to pull through here. Just based off those generators, based off the buffs, and his deck really just performed the way it should have and got him the win.
Definitely, definitely.
So with that being said, folks, let's go ahead and bring you to the post-match here so we can take a look a little bit closer at what match number 1 held for us. Alright, folks, in game number 1 coming to a close here. oooje with the first victory in the set. Overall, very nicely done. From what we thought was a weird lightning blade in the early game to a winning dominant board position at the end. I just think oooje's deck worked really well again. I mean, it's very consistent from what we've seen throughout all of his matchups. He kind of goes in, he sets up his buffs, and as long as he can keep them in, that's how the matches are going to go. And it's kind of worked out well for him here. So far, remaining undefeated inside casting conflicts.
I think the biggest important issue that Dolphin's going to have throughout the next set of matchups is that unit generator plus the area of effect damage being generated from the Temple of the Five Gods is just such a powerful combination, and the chip damage is just going to keep on coming in on face, and unless he has some way to deal with it or some kind of healing, it's going to be extremely difficult for him to close out a match or get units across the board in either an orderly or timely manner without them simply just getting chained into oblivion.
Right, so with that being said, of course, oooje with the set point here, going into game number 2. Let's see what Dolphin brings out for his counter pick in this next matchup. Alright.
Take it.
No, I mean...
Okay, we see here your Raka party coming out, ladies and gentlemen. A deck that Astro and I pioneered. I'm very excited for this matchup. I think it's going to be extremely difficult here, however, for Dolphin in this match number 2 between him and oooje.
I don't think it's Raka Party. I don't think it's going to be. Knowing what Dolphin's been piloting recently, I think he's gone back to the blue-red Drakes rather than, you know, it being funny Raka Party. While it would be cool and funny to see that kind of deck break through here in casting conflicts, we're just not going to see it today, unfortunately. It's going to be interesting to see how this deck compares, though, to sort of the early big buff strategy here of oooje. I mean, with hands looking like they are, I'm kind of nervous for him already here. We're already seeing a big buildup of units here. Hassan City Guard.
I think we're actually going to see a lot of value coming out of, say, something like a wins in this matchup, simply because if Dolphin plays that Darkbender or any other range units to almost give him space, those wins can come into play and really mess up a board in the positioning of it for Dolphin in a way that he's just not going to be able to deal with, I think, with these colors. The biggest thing is that all damage that oooje is going to be doing in this matchup will stick. It's extremely difficult to stop a death from, say pool of getting your castle into the middle of the board if you don't have any way to make sure that all that initial damage that they're going to be doing to it for free isn't just simply healed off.
Right. So the question actually here is, do we coin into... Okay, looks like we are going to go into the coin Darkbender. Foregoing the coin for an early Dragon's Fire, rather we're just going to establish a board presence now. Putting it in a position where it could be chained with Lightning Blade here, which we did see twice in the last match. Do we see it again for a third time here?
I think Lightning Blade would once again be a mistake this early. That being said, however, I think it would give oooje the board presence that he needs to get those buffs rolling and go into... If he has another turn 5 Temple, it'll just work out great for him. But the chance of having both of those again match to match is actually quite low.
That is true, but we can always be surprised here on casting conflicts. Look like it is going to be Sea Witch for turns, so not exactly the card that oooje is looking for here, but not a bad pickup. Dragon's Fire will make short work of that if we don't see things like double armory come down to increase some health here on this board. Meanwhile, it looks like guards are going to be retreating here. Rats being pushed up ever so slightly. Fear on the guard. Okay, so we can move our Darkbender into a better position, it looks like, for the turn here. Dolphin not too happy about his hand, and I don't blame him. Green Drake, 2 Morlocks, and his heavy top-end Dragons both making an appearance now for turn. Ugh. Not exactly
I
liking
I
this.
really I really actually dislike that fear play. I would have liked to have seen it there on the Witch simply because he does have plays like this, or even almost scarier. He had a play of like say playing something like Temple, where he's then also doing damage to Castle additionally to the Darkbender. And it's just an extremely bad situation to be in if you're trying to survive this onslaught.
I think there is a saving grace, though, for Dolphin in this. I mean, listen. At this point, Dragon's Fire is a huge equalizer. There's no getting around that. If oooje was to play an Armory turn, what is it? Next turn, it's going to be bad. Thank you, Dolphin, but I appreciate the actual match happening rather than your commentary. Yeah, listen, I know, you're not too happy about it. What we can do right now, clear the Skeletal Pirate, hit the Sea Witch with the Green Drake. I think that's his best option. He's going to lose the Dark Bender, but instead make the way for a huge Dragon's Fire turn 6, and hopefully equalize his board just a little bit better here. And hopefully, when we get to things like turn 9, big Yenneroth freeze, hit the board, follow into a Arachnoth. That's a nice combination of cards there to play back to back.
I think that he's actually almost out of the woods now that that temple comes down, because if an armory had come down, all of these units would have had a whole lot more sticking power against that Dragon's Fire. And I think this Dragon's Fire is going to be the only thing that's going to be keeping him in the game after this. It's very concerning because there's also cards like Rat King that might be lurking, which is just immediately all the units that you kill off, all of a sudden they're just basically right back.
Curious
I
how
think he has to play
oooje...
Dragon's Fire here
I
also.
think he
That's
does
the other
too.
issue.
Curious how oooje actually missed, I think, that top guard going in and moving. Maybe a little slight miscalculation there. Forgot to move that guard around.
I
But he's
think this is a very
considering...
greedy play from Dolphin
Yeah,
here. Oh
no.
no, he takes
Dragon...
the proper play.
He does like the Dragon's Fire. That is the right one to go to. You want to equalize the board a little bit better here. If something like Double Bard or Bard Armory was to come down, it would make these units survive past the Dragon's Fire and would just leave them in a whole worse opportunity. Seeing this come down, though, I think does kind of feel slightly bad because we could have made some good value out of a Dragon's Fire here again as well. Just knowing what would come out on the board. But now I think seeing that Dragon's Fire, oooje is playing a bit more greedily now, getting things like the Blacksmith, Rusty Hooks out, weaker units that by this point would have died thanks to a Dragon's Fire.
I think that if he can get into Mordok and then Yenneroth and then Raka, he might have a chance in this game. But it's simply he's at the position where honestly, if he doesn't close out a match, then oooje can just keep on doing just chip damage to his castle, and there's going to be no way around it. I wouldn't even be surprised here if the rat took a lightning blade, just that way.
We can start dragging the
Actually, not the
castle.
rat, excuse me. Yeah, but he can't do that though. Actually, it would block the square.
Well, I mean,
He's one damage off.
listen, if he lightning blades the rat, that would be a different story. No, yeah, you're right. It would have.
I think actually, if he lightning blades the right here, no, he
Nope.
doesn't though. Interesting though that he didn't use pool at all.
Oh, there's the Mordok. So, ugh.
I think that he's actually going to get to the positioning he wants to be in for this setup. I think he needs to go for Blacksmith here, actually, just take the hit on face.
The thing is, though,
It's,
okay, like, I understand Dolphin's mentality here of potentially holding out, potentially. I mean, I do think he has to trade the Blacksmith. I think you're incredibly right here. But the problem is, does Mordok see an L-Blade? Potentially.
it doesn't
And
matter because if you don't trade the Blacksmith, then you can't block. There's no way to block. You didn't pull that Wraith.
mhm.
It's just no matter what, it's if you can get to Yenneroth, Yenneroth is the only saving grace he has here.
It is, and it all comes down to whether or not oooje can close this game out with big damage from something like an L-Blade against this Mordok, because that would be enough, because of course Mordok generates a unit here, the unit does whatever it needs to do. It just really comes down to this turn, this big turn to decide the game. Will oooje have the L-Blade? Will he win the game right here?
I don't think he has it. I think he's calculating right now, which is the sign of someone who's not confident in their ability. I think he's going to try to trade the Mordok with the rats.
That's the pull
And
he
that's
needed
not
last turn.
the
To
pull
be
he wanted to
honest.
see.
Well, that's the one he needed last turn, if we're being or Dolphin
Yeah,
needed
yeah.
last turn to push this Wraith back, give him the confidence to
The-
just move forward in the matchup. That would have helped secure this matchup for him later down the line, but not now.
I think that's actually what Dolphin's looking for, as it's simply not going to die.
Yep. No.
However, I think
There's
that's
the
a match.
L-Blade. Yep. There's the L-Blade. More than enough to
Surprised
finish
to
off
see it
the
come
game.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oooje just simply had that power, that just ticking clock of a rat hovel, and it was just simply too much for the slower called cards in there for Dolphin.
Agreed. Unfortunately, I feel like that game was heavily influenced by Dolphin's draw. Seeing things like double Raka, Yenaroth in the mid game doesn't really help you combat the onslaught that oooje is throwing out earlier on. It just kind of felt like a mismatch to me, to be honest, in terms of decks. But we're gonna go ahead and check in here with a post match, show you guys how game number 2 ended out, and another 2-0 set for oooje. Alright folks, in game number 2 coming to a close here, oooje with another 2-0 victory going over against Dolphin's Dragon deck. And yeah, again, similar to what we saw in the first game, just establishing that early board presence, getting the buffs out, and just kind of walking clear path to victory from there. More so thanks to those dragon pulls. I think mid-game, it definitely hurt Dolphin to see things like Raka, Yenaroth, turn 5, turn 6, when he needed just some other options in this deck.
I really think that Dolphin had a way back in there with between Yenaroth and then to possibly a double Rakanoth. I just simply think that oooje simply had too much power. He had too much ability to just simply push, and there's nothing Dolphin could do about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just as simple as that. And even with things like we saw a board clear from Dolphin with one of the Dragon's Fires, towards the later half of that game, even then it just wasn't enough to kind of make a huge impact. I do think maybe looking back in hindsight, maybe if Dolphin held the Dragon's Fire, got a little more greedy with it, he could have walked away with a bigger Dragon's Fire, but we just didn't see that. And I mean, rightly so. The guy had to shotgun the Dragon's Fire at that point, or else, who knows, it could have been a loss. We weren't sure what was in the hand at that point. But overall, great gameplay from oooje. Great game from both of these guys. And you want to go head to the players now and see how they're feeling after a quicker 2-game set?
That'd be great.
Alright folks, and of course game number 2 coming to a close, and with that the set comes to a close. It's been a minute since we saw a 2-game set, but oooje coming out on top here with the blue-green good stuff, I want to say. How do you feeling, oooje?
Very good.
Still remaining undefeated, I see here on the series, according to you, between both seasons. Yep. I feel like this is just going to be the thing now, where it's we come in, we're going to hype you up as undefeated and just see if that holds true. But I mean, how do you feel about the matchup overall, going up against the yellow-white into the blue-red dragons?
I mean, very good about the first deck at least, since I knew he had a lot of what's called draws and late game stuff. I just kind of had to kill him before that.
Not really. It helps when I don't draw a fucking
Yes, really.
Centaur.
Alright, there we
But
go.
she
Or
didn't.
Bestial Rage, which didn't matter anyways.
Right, but I mean, I want to go back to actually game 1. Speaking of Lightning Blade here, we saw an early play going into Hassan Guard. You L-bladed that guard to remove Questing Knight and weaken the Shield Runner. At the time, we thought it was a bit of a odd choice in play. Can you just explain to us the idea behind going into that L-blade guard?
I just really wanted to keep my what's called the rat spawner safe, and didn't have many other plays to make that like a decent gold price without wasting a lot of money. So it seemed like the right play.
Interesting. Because, I mean, like, throwing the L-Blade out there that early kind of threw off the idea that you were maybe running out of options or didn't have enough options in hand to really keep the game going. So it was a bit of an odd choice, to say the least, here. But that was all I had. Slash, anything for oooje?
Yeah, oooje. We see that you've had quite the dominant run so far. Is there any opponent that you either look forward to facing or think that you have a bad matchup against, or if there's any almost concern you have knowing other players' decks?
Haven't really like looked over everyone's deck, so not sure.
All right. Confident in all challengers, perhaps, maybe?
The only one I would be really scared of is Helpful Yoda, but he's not playing, so you know.
Interesting. Alright, alright. But over on the other side then, I guess we have Dolphin, who unfortunately, not the most successful here, but I mean, I'll let you take the wheel on that one, buddy. I think you've got your own rant probably built up, so.
It's amazing my luck in these matches, Red. It's phenomenal. I love this luck-based game. Mordok could have summoned a Banshee or a Wraith. What did it summon? It summoned the one unit with one fucking health that died to Lightning Blade, so I couldn't kill the Rat Hovel, so he just took over and...
Right, okay,
Not
so...
to mention, I sideboarded Pacifism, which I completely forgot that I was going against this guy who plays the shittiest deck. With Pacifism doesn't work against rats. There's a word that describes its use, and it's useless.
Useless.
No, oooje. It was the different word, actually.
Well,
I literally said useless.
Brain wouldn't comprehend.
all right. But going past the deck here, I noticed that you went for the blue-red dragons in game 2. Can you just talk to us a little bit about the counterpick option there? Why go for that? I mean, I assume maybe because Rakanoth's, big surprising burst could do some funny things, but I mean,
Rakanoth helps. Also, when I don't draw all of them, and a Yenaroth, and Tordox, and a Green Drake, literally all my expensive cards. My early game, I couldn't do anything. I didn't get a blue Firebolt. I couldn't get a single global buff down, and when I did, which was a Dragon Temple, which is shit, when I don't have any dragons down, he just destroyed it right away.
right. It just seemed like
Both of these losses were fully on my hands because I couldn't draw anything that was useful against rats, which you can't do anything against then. That's just a losing game no matter what.
Yeah, they just kind of seemed to take over and swarm the board here. That was going to be it for me, though. Throwing it back to you, Slash, to close out with any Dolphin questions that you had.
Dolphin, you've been one of the more dominant, aggressive players in this matchup. I mean, this is the first loss you've had, and as you've mentioned, it's very luck based. Do you think that say in a larger set that you would have been able to take a win off oooje here?
With what deck? Crusader, Druid, or
yeah? Do you think this is also just simply a bad matchup of your deck and his deck, also showcasing it?
For the first one, yes. Because like I said, my only cards that could destroy his setup were Centaur and a Bestial Rage if I got a unit on his castle. That was a bad matchup. I would give oooje the victory always on that one. For Dragons, I think if we played more matches... I don't know. I would say that's 50-50 because I have Dragon's Fire, which board wipes him. I have Lightning Blade, which destroys his buildings. I have Blue Firebolts, and then I have Arioth, which pushes all my dragons into his base. And then, like Red said, I had Rakanoth, which bombs his entire board. I don't know about Dragons. I think that's a 50-50 if we played more.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Well, good stuff from both of you. I'm happy to have you both play here. And best of luck to you both in your next sets.
And with that being said, folks, of course, we'll take you to the post-match, the leaderboard standings to show you how this set affects our standings. Of course, the final match of February leads the leaderboards to look something like this.